Hi, this is Alimayo Arango of LittleGuyCGI.com, and today I want to show you how to make a carrier space scene inside of Blender 2.77a. So let's get started. Okay, if this is your first time in Blender, I recommend you go to File, User Preferences, go to Input, and then choose Select with left click. Blender's default select is with right click, and this may confuse you if you're coming from Adobe programs or other 3D programs. Also, while you're in here, please click on Add-ons. Then put a check mark right here next to 3D View: 3D Navigation. You can scroll all the way down to the bottom and put a check mark next to User Interface: Pi Menus Official as well. Okay, when you put those check marks into the add-ons user preferences, one of the options that you should now have is this navigation tab. So you click here. When you click these buttons here, you can quickly manipulate your view inside of Blender. You can also hold your middle mouse button to rotate your view. Okay, for now I'm going to click here to go to front view. When you come into Blender, you come inside using object mode. When you click here, you can see a bunch of the different modes that you have available to you inside of Blender. For now, what we're going to do is we're going to click on this cube. My cube is already selected, and then with it selected, we're going to press the X key to bring up our delete menu. We're then going to choose delete. Now what we're going to do is press and hold shift, and then while holding shift, we're going to press A. This brings up our add to menu. We're then going to select mesh and then plane. Okay, you can see our plane right here. I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate the view. Okay, so with the plane selected, what we're going to do is, like I had mentioned previously, we're in object mode. I'm going to click here, and then we're going to click edit mode. Here in edit mode, we can manipulate this plane by vertices, edges, and faces by selecting one of the buttons that you see right here. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to press S to scale this plane up. I'm then going to press S to scale on the Y axis. I'm just pulling my mouse to the side like that. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to press the W key. When we press the W key, this brought up our specials menu. We're now going to select subdivide. When I selected subdivide, now you can see these options for the subdivide menu right here. What you want to do is take this up to, let's take it up to 8. Okay, basically what we're doing right now is we're making our floor for our scene. One of the things you can do to get quick details for your work in Blender is when you subdivide here, we've got all these edges here, right? When I click here and I go in object mode, other than the grid here, you can see this looks like just a regular plane, right? So we're going to click here and then come back to edit mode again. Okay, what we want to do is to have each of these individual faces extrude up rather than this entire shape extruding up. The way we can do that is we can click here, which is Blender's pivot point menu, and then we can change Blender's pivot point from the default pivot point, which is the median point, to individual origins. Okay, now with that done, what we're going to do is hold down Alt, and then while holding Alt, we're going to press the E key. This brings up our Extrude menu. With this menu brought up, we're going to select individual faces. Then I'm going to left click to lock that in. Okay, now it doesn't look like anything happened, but what happened is Blender took each of these individual faces and put new geometry on there. Because we have new geometry, we can scale that geometry down. So what we're going to do now is press S to scale and just scale in some. Like that. Then I'm going to left click to lock that in. Okay, if you're wondering why each individual face actually scaled in on itself, it's because of this pivot point right here. If this pivot point was set to medium point when we scaled, even though we did the extrude individual origins, these faces still would have, in a sense, scaled like they were one face. But because we changed this pivot point to individual origins, we were able to scale each face down. So that gives us a lot of quick detail. I'm going to hold Control and the middle mouse button to zoom in. So what I'm going to do now is hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. The reason why I'm rotating this view is because I just want to get a more 3D view. I want to see how much depth I'm about to get from this next step. Okay, with this view, that will allow us to see how much thickness we're adding a little bit easier. What we're going to do is press E to extrude. See those blue lines right there? Those are blue preview extrusion lines. They're showing us how our extrusion is going to go. So we're just going to push up slightly and then left click to lock that extrusion in. Okay, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold Control and the middle mouse button to zoom back. I am then going to press A to deselect. Remember how when we came out to object mode before, we just saw, just a flat plane, right? I'm going to click here and change this pivot point from individual origins back to Blender's default pivot point, which is the medium point. But watch how this looks now when we go back to object mode. And hopefully you can see that now you can actually see the detail of those different faces. So I'm going to click here and come back to edit mode. Okay, so now we have all this detail. So we're going to press L. So I hovered over here, I pressed L. When I pressed L, I was able to grab all of this geometry right here. Currently we're on vertice select. I'm going to click here to go to face select. I'm going to hold down shift, and then while holding shift press D. That duplicated that geometry. Typically when I duplicate things, I'll wiggle my mouse just because I want to make sure that I have the geometry duplicated. I'm going to right click to get that geometry to jump right back into place. I'm going to take this manipulator to move that duplicated geometry up to about here. Now what I want to do is I want to flip this geometry, so to say. So an easy way to do that is to just press S to scale on the Z-axis -1 and then left click to lock that in. Okay, one of the reasons why I did that was there are directions to how your faces face things in Blender. So Blender does decide how the faces are going. So just from working with Blender, I know that these faces here are pointed up. When I duplicated this geometry right here, the faces still would have been pointing up. So I wanted the faces pointing down. So that's why I selected this, press S to scale, on the Z-axis -1. Sometimes when you're working in Blender, you'll notice that the shading looks kind of strange. A lot of times when that shading is strange looking, it's because your normals aren't facing the right direction. Again, normal basically means which direction a face is facing. So imagine it as you have a piece of paper, right? Typically a piece of paper has, two white sides, right? So imagine the part of the paper that you put a drawing on. That's the side you want to show, not the back part. You want to show your drawing. So that would be like, in a sense, that kind of how your normals are facing. So to see more what I'm talking about, I'm going to press N to bring up our properties panel. I'm then going to scroll down. Okay, see where it says mesh display here. So we can click here to see our normals and see that. I thought I had got the normals going the correct direction, but here you can see the normals are still facing up. So we want these normals to be facing down. You might say, well, what's the big deal? If you want things that are correct to look correctly, you should at least know about normals. And for this scene right here, we want these normals to be facing down. So how can we do that? With this selected here, see the little, let me hold shift and then B so you can see closer. See these are showing us the direction of our normals. That's how Blender's showing us how our normals are facing. To fix that, what we can do is just press W to bring up our specials menu, and then we can select right here where it says flip normals. And now you can see like these displays showing the direction that our normals are facing are now facing downward, which is what we want. So we want these normals to face up and these normals to face down. Okay, let's click here to take away the ability to see the direction our normals are facing. Okay, so what we're going to do now is press A to deselect. I'm going to hold Control and hold my middle mouse button and then pull back to zoom back. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold Shift and middle mouse button to pan. We're then going to click here to go to Edge Select. Okay, with Edge Select on, I'm going to hold down Alt and then I'm going to click right here. Because I was holding the Alt key down when I clicked on this edge, I selected that entire edge loop right there, which is what we want. Okay, with that edge loop selected, what we're going to do now is press E to extrude, and then I'm going to press Z. Now you can see the preview line after I press Z showing us how this extrusion is going to go. So we're just going to drag this straight up about like that. And I'm going to left click to lock that in, and then press A to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold my Control key as well as hold my middle mouse button to zoom back. I'm going to press N to take away this properties panel. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. Okay, I'm going to click here to go to face select. I'm then going to press C for paint select. I'm then going to select all of these faces here. I'm then going to right click to get out of paint select. Okay, with these faces selected, I'm going to press X to bring up our delete menu. I'm then going to choose faces to delete. Okay, we're still on face select. I'm going to press C for paint select. I'm going to select these three faces here. I am going to skip the one space right there. I'm going to shrink my paint select by rolling my mouse wheel, and then I'm going to select these three faces here. I'm then going to right click to get out of paint select. Okay, what I'm going to do now is hold the middle mouse button and rotate the view. I'm then going to press I for inset, and then I'm going to push in a little bit, about like that. I'm then going to left click to lock that in. Okay, what I just did with the I for inset is kind of like in extrusion. However, the reason why I used inset here was it allowed me to basically scale down and create new geometry at the same time for both of these areas here, which allows me to easily have both of these groups of faces be the same size. Okay, what we're going to do now is press E to extrude on the X-axis and then push out about like that. Then I'm going to left click to lock that in. I'm then going to press X to bring up our delete menu. I'm then going to choose faces to delete. Okay, I'm going to hold Control as well as the middle mouse button to zoom in some. I am going to hover my mouse here. I'm going to press and hold Control. While holding Control, I'm going to press R. I'm going to move my mouse just so I can get a loop cut right where you see it now, which is what I want. So I'm going to left click to lock that in. I'm going to left click a second time to totally lock that in. Okay, I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm now going to hover my mouse here. I'm going to hold Control. While holding Control, I'm then going to press R. I'm then going to move my mouse to put that loop cut preview right there. I'm going to left click one time and then left click a second time to totally lock that loop cut in. I'm then going to press A to deselect. Okay, now I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to click here to go to face select. I'm then going to press C for paint select. I'm then going to paint these faces right here. I am then going to right click to get out of paint select. Okay, with these faces selected here, I'm going to press E to create new geometry right on top of the old geometry. I'm then going to right click so that none of the new geometry moves. It doesn't look like anything happened, but there's all new faces right on top of the old faces. And because of that, now we can press S to scale. like this. So then I'm going to left click to lock that in. Okay, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. See this right here, how this is up some? I want this right here to be down on the floor level. So I'm going to hold control and hold the middle mouse button to zoom in. So what I'm going to do is with these faces selected, I'm just going to push down like that. Okay, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view a little. Okay, now I'm going to press E to extrude and take this back some. About like that. And then left click to lock in. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button just to take a look. Okay, now I'm going to press E to extrude again. I'm then going to left click to lock that in. I'm then going to press S to scale. Similar to how we did before. Then I'm going to left click to lock that scale in. Okay, I'm going to press and hold shift, and then while holding shift, press B to draw a zoom box. Zoom in right here. And I want this, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button. I want this to be down near here, so I'm just going to grab this and push down. And see if you want fine movements right here. What you can do is you can press, with these faces selected, you can press G and then Z, and then I can hold down shift. I'm going to left click to lock that in. By holding down shift, Blender allows you to make very fine movements. Okay, as far as having these faces selected, if I press an arrow key down now, nothing will happen as far as moving these faces down. However, if I press G to move on the Z axis and now I use the down arrow key, I can move down in a small increment. So that's pretty useful to know about. So I'm going to then left click to lock that movement in. Okay, now what I'm going to do is press A to deselect. I'm then going to go to edge select. I'm then going to click here. I'm going to temporarily take away this manipulator because it's blocking me from grabbing the edges that I want. So I'm going to click here to temporarily take that away. I'm going to grab these here. And I'm going to click here to bring the manipulator back. And then I'm just going to pull up some like this. Okay, I'm going to press A to deselect. I'm going to then click here to take away the manipulator. I'm going to click here. I'm just going to press G and then Z to move this up so I don't have to deal with the manipulator getting in the way. I'm now going to select here. I'm holding shift. I'm selecting here. I'm now pressing G and then Z to move that up like that. I'm now clicking here, holding shift, and then clicking there while holding shift. Now I'm pressing G and then Z to move these up. I'm going to click here, here, and then press G and then Z again to move these up. And then I'm going to left click to lock that in and then press A to deselect. Okay, what I'm going to do now is click here to go to face select. I'm then going to press C for paint select. I'm then going to paint all of these faces right here and then right click to get out of paint select. Okay, I'm going to hold my middle mouse button to rotate the view slightly. I'm then going to press E to extrude on the Y axis. You can see the preview line right there. And I'm just going to push back some like this. I'm then going to left click to lock that in. I'm then going to press A to deselect. I'm then going to hover my mouse right here. I'm going to hold control and then while holding control press R. I'm then going to left click once to lock that in and then left click a second time to totally lock that in. I'm then going to press A to deselect. Okay, now I'm going to hold control and hold the middle mouse button to zoom back. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan. I'm going to hold control and the middle mouse button to pull back. I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold control and the middle mouse button to zoom back. Okay, I'm going to hold control as well as hold the middle mouse button to zoom back some. I'm then going to click here to go to face select. I'm then going to hover here and then press L to select this geometry right here. Okay, now I'm going to press G and then Z to move this down some. Then I'm going to left click to lock that in, then hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm then going to press A to deselect. Okay, and what we're going to do now is set up the camera. So we're going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan down. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate in some, or rotate the view up some. Okay, so what we can do to get our camera to jump to this view right here is we can hold down Control, and while holding Control, hold Alt, and then while holding Control and Alt, press the number pad 0. Okay, what you see here is the view from our camera. This dark part that you see is what's outside of camera view, and this part right here is what's inside of the camera view. Often it's useful to be able to stay in this view, which is, looking from the camera. And just to make things clearer, basically, if we want to render out an image, or if we want to render out an animation, you're gonna see is actually what you see through this camera view. So when we're basically, manipulating the view, that's for our sake. However, the camera is going to show you what actually comes out of Blender, whether it's as an image or as an animation. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to press the N key to bring up our properties panel. We're then going to scroll up. And this is what we want, this lock camera to view. So we're going to click here to put a check mark right there. Okay, and you can see when we did that, that being putting a check mark here with lock camera to view, we see this red outline, right? That red outline lets us know that Blender, has things set up where the camera is locked to this view. Now, what's cool about this is the way that we manipulate Blender. You hear me saying, Shift and hold the middle mouse button to pan. Well, now we can actually pan the camera and zoom just like we pan our normal view, when we're working on different areas in Blender or working with Blender. So I'm going to hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan. And what we want to do here is we want it to look like, this is connected to a spaceship, basically. So we want to make sure that these areas here are, totally within the camera view. Like, we don't want there to be areas like this that let, the viewer know that this is all that we have right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold Control as well as hold the middle mouse button. We're going to zoom in. And we're zooming in, basically trying to get rid of things like this. Like, see that? It's still there. So this part is good. The fact that it's not lined up, that's fine. We're concerned about this right here. We don't want that, this space. So we'll hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan. We almost got it. We have this little bit right here. We're going to hold Control and the middle mouse button to zoom in some more. And now you can see that there's no space. Like, from the camera view, we are, long story short, inside of a spaceship, which is what we want. Okay, so now that we have our camera where we want it to be, we don't want that camera to move. So we want to take away this check right here next to lock camera to view. Okay, now when I hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view, our camera stays in its current position. However, we're free to manipulate our work view so we can continue to work. Okay, what I'm going to do now is press N to take away our properties panel. I'm then going to hover my mouse over this little triangular looking thing. When I left click here and then drag to the side, I'm able to split the view inside of Blender. Okay, and what this is useful for is we want to have the camera view right here. So you can either press 0 on your number keypad to go to camera view. You can also select view camera right here as well. I'm going to press 0 on my number keypad. So now we see the camera view right here. We can take away this panel right here by pressing T. And then I'm going to hold Control as well as hold the middle mouse button to zoom in. So this shows our camera, and we'll use this to, make sure that our scene looks how we want it to look while we continue to work in this scene over here. Now I want this scene to look deeper, so that's pretty simple. We're inside of edit mode, So we're still inside of this object, or this object. They're just, the same scene, just two different views of it. We're inside of this object right here, all right? So we can press A and just select all of the geometry here without anything else being affected. So I'm going to hold the middle mouse button just so I can see the view. And then what I'm going to do is press S to scale on the Y-axis. So in the right screen, I'm going to look at the perspective to see how far back I'm going. And then on a camera view, I'm just going to pay attention to how things look there as well. So I'm going to then left click. Now I'm going to roll my mouse wheel back so you can see how far back this goes. Okay, with all of this geometry selected, we're going to press G and then Y, then move our mouse up. We're going to look at the left screen. Then I'm going to left click to lock that in. Then I'm going to press A to deselect. Okay, as far as geometry, most of our work is done right here. The only thing I would like to add is I would like to break up this, the fact that this is basically a rectangle. So I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view here. I'm going to right click right here. The reason why I right clicked right here was to put the 3D cursor right there. In Blender, wherever the 3D cursor is at is where objects tend to come into Blender at. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to press Shift A. This brings up our Add To menu. We're then going to choose Cylinder. As soon as we choose Cylinder, if we look to our left, we can see options for this cylinder. You want to scroll down a little bit, see where it says Cap Fill right here. Currently, this cylinder has I'll show you. I'll hold the middle mouse button here. See this top right here? We don't want that. It's just going to get in the way. So what we can do is click here and then select nothing. So now you can see there's no cap on this cylinder anymore. Okay, I want to just focus right on this. So what we can do to have this temporarily go away, just look like it goes away anyway, is we can press and hold down Shift and then press H. And what that does is Shift H, or holding Shift and pressing H, hides everything but what you have selected. So what I'm going to do now is hold down Shift, then press B, and then draw a box select right here. I'm then going to press R to rotate on the X-axis 90, and then left click to lock that in. I find that cylinders are good objects to add quick detail into a scene. What we're going to do here is we're going to click on Blender's pivot point panel. We're going to change the pivot point from the median point to individual origins. Okay, now I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. Then what I'm going to do with this whole cylinder selected, I'm going to hold down Alt, and then while holding Alt, press E. This brings up our Extrude menu. I'm then going to select individual faces. I'm then going to left click to lock that in. So now we have basically all of these edges here are ready to extrude out separately and not as a whole cylinder. Okay, what we're going to do now is a special kind of scale. We're going to hold Alt, and then while holding Alt, press S, and then pull down like that, and then left click to lock that in. Okay, and that Alt S is a special kind of scaling that makes things get either thicker or skinnier. Because we had the individual origins pivot point set up, as well as we extruded for individual faces, that's how we were able to get this cylinder to have these different pieces of detail come out like this. Okay, now what we're going to do is press A to deselect and then A to select everything. We're then going to press S to scale on the Y-axis. Scale up. I'm going to roll my mouse wheel to zoom back some. I'm then going to press S to scale on the Y-axis more. I'm going to press S to scale on the Y-axis again. Then I'm going to left click to lock this in. Okay, now what we're going to do is hold down Alt, and then while holding Alt, press H to bring back our other geometry. I'm then going to press A to deselect all of the geometry. Okay, so I'm going to click here on our pivot point option, panel, and I'm going to change our pivot points from individual origins back to Blender's default pivot point, which is the medium point. Okay, so we're currently on face select, so I'm going to hover over a face and then press L, which allowed me to select the entire object. Okay, so I'm going to then click here so our manipulator comes back. I'm then going to pull this up some, and then I'm going to watch this corner right here. I'm going to push this over some. So I want this in the corner. It's bigger than what I want, so I'm going to press S to scale down some. And push it over the corner. Okay, now I'm going to press A to deselect. And I just wanted to do this just to break up the box-like shape of everything a little with this shape right here. Okay, I called this, how to make a carrier spacing. We're going to have a carrier out the window here. I'm going to provide you with that carrier. I will put a link up so that you can get to a tutorial where I actually show you how to make that carrier. I'm also going to put in the description a link where you can download the carrier so you can, work your way through making this scene. However, that carrier that you're going to get, if you choose to download it, also if you watch the tutorial on how to make it, is finished off in cycle. So when you come into Blender, you by default are using the Blender render, which you can see right here. Without getting all into it, the Blender renderer and the cycles renderer are a way that when you put images or video out of Blender, it's the way that light for the most part is perceived. The Blender renderer is very good for certain things, but generally cycles makes things look more realistic. It tends to the way that light bounces around, it bounces around much more accurately in cycles than the Blender renderer. They both have their strengths. The Blender renderer is much faster. It's very good for computers where they might have a little bit less, CPU power and graphical power generally. However, right now we're going to go into the cycles renderer. So to do that, we click here and then we just select cycles renderer. Okay, here in the cycles renderer, I have a NVIDIA processor. So where it says device, I can change this device from CPU to GPU. And this basically will allow cycles to run faster. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to hold shift and middle mouse button to pan this view. I'm then going to click here and then go into object view. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold shift and the middle mouse button to pan the view. I'm going to hover my mouse here, move this over some. I'm going to roll my mouse here to make this view a little bit smaller. I'm going to hover here and pull to the side. I'm then going to right click right here. The reason why I right click right there was so that I could put the 3D cursor right there so that I can bring in the carrier ship. Because in Blender, where this 3D cursor is at is where objects tend to come into Blender at. Okay, before you bring in the capital ship into Blender, make sure you're in the cycles renderer. To bring that in here, what we're going to do is click File, Append. We're going to go to Desktop. We're then going to click wherever you have it located at. I'm going to then click here. I'm then going to click here. And I'm then going to go to Object. There's multiple ways of doing it. This is the way I'm showing you how to do it. I'm going to then press A to select all of the objects and then click Append from Library. All of these selected objects are still selected because they just came in. What you want to do is press M to bring up your move to layer and then click here to move them to this layer right here. So when I click here, now I can see all the objects that we just brought in. Okay, this also allows you to easily deal with some objects that you might not want in the scene, like this light. I'm going to click here, then press X to bring up our delete menu, and then delete that. I'm then going to select this camera. This is another camera from the scene that this was originally in. This isn't the camera that's currently, the one that's going to be rendering out our scene. So we can press X and then choose delete to get rid of that camera. Okay, now what we can do is I'm going to hold down Shift, and then while holding Shift, I'm going to click this layer, so now we can see both layers. So what I'm going to do is click right here and then press G to move this capital ship over like that. And what we want to do is pay attention to this window right here. All right. So if I move, I can see that this is far from the window. Also, the scale is kind of strange. So I'm going to press S to scale that up some. I'm rotating the view just to see that now I can see we're underneath here. So we need to move this up. And then I'm going to, click. Now we can see it outside the window here, which is what we want. So I'm going to hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to hover here and then make this window a little bit bigger. Now I'm going to hold Control, then hold the middle mouse button to zoom in some so we can get a better look out this window. I want the capital ship to be kind of showing through both of these windows right here. Pull this back some. And what I want to do is tilt the capital ship some, so it's I think a better angle. So what we're going to do with this empty selected, which the capital ship, there's also little fighters that were brought into the scene. They're all parented to this empty right here. So I'm going to press R to rotate on the Y axis like this. So we're looking through that window right there. I would like this little fighter to be more visible, so I'm going to pull this back some more like that. Okay, if you want to see what this scene looks like, what you can do is, and when I say looks like, I mean rendered, you can hold down Shift and then press Z. And now you can see that's what you can see so far. There's, no light in here. Now that's not so much of a bad thing, that we do want some light. So I'm going to hold Shift and then press Z to come out of render view. Okay, we're actually going to try to use the lack of light to our advantage. So what I'm going to do now is press A to deselect. I'm then going to hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan. I'm then going to click here and then hold the middle mouse button to rotate our view. I'm then going to hold Control and the middle mouse button to zoom in. I'm then going to hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan. I am then going to click here and then click here to go into edit mode. Okay, what we want to do is click here because we want to zoom in here. Now we could push the period key on our number keypad to zoom in there. We also can click here on our navigation tab and then click View to Selected. Okay, what we're going to do is hold Control and the middle mouse button to zoom back some. We're then going to press A to deselect. We're going to make sure we're on face select. We're then going to click here, hold Shift, then click here, 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 as well as here. So now I'm finally letting go of Shift now. Okay, the reason why we have these faces selected is we're going to use these faces to emit light. So I'm going to hover my mouse here. I'm going to pull this out to the side and then going to click here, which is our materials panel. Okay, and what we're going to do is first we're going to click here. So we have our main material here. Then we're going to click this plus to the right here. So we're going to click that. Now we're going to click here. Okay, and what we're going to do now is we're going to click where it says diffuse BSDF. We're going to click there. And then we're going to click here to change that to emission. Okay, when we change this from diffuse to emission, basically what we just did is we are setting the stage to have light come out of these faces right here. Currently, the color of that light would be like this. I'm going to click here and then make this light what looks to me more like a science fiction type kind of light. Okay, so with these faces selected and with our color selected and with the surface being emission, we're now going to click Assign. Okay, this is the current strength of the light. I'm going to click here and then press 5 and then press Enter to raise the strength of the light that's going to be emitted out of these faces. I'm now going to press A to deselect the faces that were previously selected. Okay, what we're going to do now is hold down Control and then hold the middle mouse button and zoom back. I'm going to hold now Shift and middle mouse button to pan. I'm letting go of Shift and middle mouse button, holding Control and the middle mouse button to zoom back. I'm holding Shift and middle mouse button to pan. I'm holding Control and the middle mouse button to zoom back. I'm going to see this right here. I'm going to press T to take away that panel. I'm going to hold Control and the middle mouse button to zoom back some more. I'm going to hold Shift and middle mouse button to pan the view some more. Okay, what I'm going to do now is hover my mouse here. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to get this, to slide to the side. You can also hold the middle mouse button to pull this over. I'm going to make sure I'm on face select. I'm then going to hold Alt, and I'm going to select a corner right here. So I selected that whole face loop right there. I'm still holding Alt. Now I'm going to hold Shift as well as Alt, and then click here to select this row of faces. I just let go of Shift and Alt. Okay, with these faces selected, what we're going to do is click this plus right here, the one that's to the right. We're then going to click here for new. Click here to change the diffuse to emission. We're then going to click here to change the color to a more blue color. We're then going to click here and then press 5 to change this value so that the light is emitting, a stronger value. It was 1, we're changing it to 5, so I'm going to press Enter. I'm then going to select Assign. Okay, so what we're going to do now is hover our mouse right here, hold Shift, and then while holding Shift, press Z to see a rendered view. I like how the light looks right here. This looks too bright to me. I'm going to hold down Shift and then press Z. So what I'm going to do is click on the material that has this bright light back here. I'm going to click here and then enter 2 for the value, then press Enter to lock that in. I'm then going to hover my mouse here and then hold down Shift and press Z. And yes, I like how that looks a lot better. So now I'm going to hold down Shift and then press Z to come out of rendered view. Okay, now I'm going to press A to deselect the faces that we had selected there. When we look here, it would be nice to have some space out here. When I say space, I mean outer space. So what we're going to do is click here and then go to object mode. I'm now going to hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan. Like that. I'm then going to right click to put the 3D cursor right there. Okay, we put the 3D cursor right there because in Blender, where the 3D cursor is at, is where objects tend to come into Blender at. Okay, so for this next part, you actually want to go to File, User Preferences, go to Add-ons. You want to make sure that you have a check mark next to right here. Import, export, import images as planes. Make sure you have a check mark here. Okay, now what you want to do is to either make a space scene or to search for a space scene. The one that I'm using, I searched for a space scene on Google. I took it in a GIMP and switched some of the elements around. The way we're going to bring that in is I'm going to click File, Import Images as Planes. And then the first thing I'm going to do once I come in here is I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to select Emission. Now I'm going to actually go and look for my image, which is a space scene right here. So I'm going to click here and then I'm going to select right here, Import Images as Planes. Okay, to see this image, what we're going to do is click here and select Texture. So I'm going to hold the middle mouse button, pull this over some, hold the middle mouse button, What I'm going to do is press R to rotate on the Y axis like this. Then I'm going to zoom in so you can see I'm going to press R to rotate on the X axis like this. This is the important part right here. So what we're going to do is move this over, and by rotating your view, it'll let you see, it being Blender will let you see how your picture needs to be. So now I'm going to press S to scale. Press S to scale again to scale this up. Press S to scale. S to scale. I just pushed it back so my fighters are still visible there. I'm going to hold control on the middle mouse button to zoom back. Holding shift and middle mouse button to pan. I'm looking through the window there, and I can see that I need to pull this to the side here. And up some. I'm going to click here and select texture here. Let's see what's going on. So I want that planet part like right there. Scrolling this way. I'm going to make this bigger. Scroll back this way. Okay, so I'm going to press R to rotate on the Z axis. Like that. The reason why I did that was just so I could have this window, you know, covered up with the space. I'm going to hold shift and middle mouse button to pan here. Okay, now what we're going to do is hover our mouse here, hold down shift, then press Z to take a look. Looking good so far, so I'm going to hold down shift, then press Z again to come out of rendered view. Okay, and I want a character standing here looking out the window. One of the easiest ways to get a character fast is to use a free program called MakeHuman. So let me show you how to do that now. Okay, this is MakeHuman here. This is what you see when you open up MakeHuman. These are your options here. What we're going to do is we're going to scroll this to the right so we have a guy. And I'll just quickly show you how you can get a character from MakeHuman, and that's what we're going to use in our scene. Okay, so what we're going to do is click on Geometries. And when we click on this, we have an option to have all these different pairs of clothing here. So we're just going to choose the male casual suit number 6. And when we click here, we can see that our character now has clothes on. We can scroll down some more. We'll click and give him some sneakers. So now he's got sneakers on. So for his head, we can actually click here. You have a bunch of filters right here. I'm going to choose male. Try clicking again. There it goes. I'm going to click this one right here. And if you hover your mouse like right next to his head or on his head, and if you roll up, you zoom out. If you roll in, it'll zoom into the face. We'll click for eyebrows here. We'll just give him those eyebrows right there. The options that we picked, we went through very quick. We just picked pretty much what MakeHuman was set for. However, you can customize, you can do amazing things with MakeHuman. Myself, personally, most of the time I prefer to make my own characters. However, if you need quick characters that are nice looking characters, MakeHuman is a good answer, I think, for that. His pose, I'll look at that, makes him, if you roll down, it zooms in, you roll up, it makes it zoom out. The pose, is a standard pose. We want him to be standing looking out the window. So what we can do is click here. Is this right? I'm sorry, that's not right. We're going to click here. Oh, no, wait a second. Here is here. Okay, here and then here. Okay, so you click pose and animate, then you're able to select pose right here. And you can see all of these different poses right here. So I'm going to scroll down. We have different standing poses here. So I'll click here and you can see the character's just standing there, and that's fine as far as looking out the window. So we'll use that one. Okay, to get this character from MakeHuman and into Blender, we want to click Files. You want to make sure that you check Wavefront Object by clicking here. You then want to click here and make sure you know where your character is going to go. Give your character a name just by, typing it in here. You're then going to click Save. And then make sure also that you click Export. Okay, here we are back in Blender. I'm going to right click right here to put 3D cursor there, because in Blender where the 3D cursor is at is where objects tend to come into Blender at. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to click File, Import. Now we're importing. When we brought the capital ship in, we appended because that was a Blender file. Because this is a wave front object, we're importing it in. So we're going to select Wavefront Object. You're going to go to wherever you saved that object at. And see right here it says character for, capital ship spacing object. The textures are right there. I'm going to click right here. So I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to click Import Object. Okay, we can see our character here, very huge. While we have our character selected, I'm going to press M to bring up our Move To layer. I'm going to click here to put him on that layer. I'm going to hold Shift and then click that layer so we can see him again. Okay, and I moved him to another layer just for organizational purposes. What I'm going to do now is I am going to hold Control and then hold the middle mouse button to zoom back some. I'm then going to hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan. I'm then going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. Okay, we have our character selected already. So what we're going to do is just look in this view, press S to scale, and then scale our character down. And I just left click to lock that size in. Okay, with our character still selected, I'm going to press R to rotate on the Z axis. I'm going to turn him so that his back is kind of like facing us while he's looking at the ship. So I'm then going to left click to lock that in. Okay, we can see our manipulator here. So we're just going to push him over to the window, something like that. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to push him more towards us like this. I'm going to hover the mouse here, hold Shift, and then press Z to take a look. I'm going to hold Shift and press Z to come out of rendered view. We're just about done, so I am going to hover here over this triangular shape, left click and drag. See that arrow? That arrow is showing us that the screen to the left is going to overtake the screen to the right. With our character still selected, I want his head to be a little bit lower than right here, so I'm going to press S to scale down some. Like that. It looks like he's gone through the floor a little bit. Our character came in super big, so the manipulator is super big. So since we're in this view, what we're going to do is press G and then Z to move him up, and then we're going to hold Shift for fine movements. And then I'm going to left click to lock him into place there. Okay, I wanted the character to move a little bit more towards us. So I'm going to press G to move in the Y axis, and then I'm going to hold Shift for finer movements. I'm then going to left click to lock that move in. I'm then going to press S to scale, and then I'm going to hold Shift for finer movements to shrink them down just a little bit more. Then going to left click to lock that scale in. One of the nice things about using MakeHuman characters is they have UV maps on them, and they are also textured. However, that setup often has to be done inside of Cycle. So I'm going to hold them in a mouse button. Don't be concerned, our camera view will still remain. I'm going to hold Shift and press B. I turned the camera angle so we weren't looking through the camera when we did the Shift B. If you kept the camera in the same angle and pressed Shift B, you would have seen something besides the character get zoomed in on. Anyway, what I'm going to do is click here on the character's head, on his hair specifically, I should say. And it's not too difficult setting up for the texture. So we're clicked on the hair. We want to click Use Nodes. We see this diffuse BSDF. This is the main color. This is fine. Leave that. However, where it says color, you want to click here. And then what you want to do is look for image texture. So you'll click here. So you remember when we first brought this character out of MakeHuman into the folder, and I said, see, there's the texture folder there, or texture. I pointed to the texture somehow. Where it says image texture here, we want to click here, right? We're going to go to that folder that we brought this character to. So when we click here, we see there's the textures. And we click here, we can see, actually we can click here so we can see better. This is the hair right here. So I'll click here and then click Open Image. Now the texture should be on that hair now. Now if we go to render this, it'll take a lot of power to render this clearly and time. So what you can do to see if that texture came in is you can actually click here and select texture mode. And we can see that color right there is in his hair. So the color texture is, correctly applied to his hair now. If you're absolutely new to 3D and you're wondering, why the textures are separate at all, the textures are basically pictures that are put onto your 3D model. And that just tends to be how it is that your 3D characters, are a mesh, and then the textures are in a separate folder. So anyway, we're going to click on the shirt right here, or the shirt and the pants. We'll click Use Nodes. We'll go here. Then we'll click Image Texture. Then we'll click Open. We'll then click Desktop. Click here and then select Textures. We'll then click here. And we can see this looks like this is his main clothes right here. So we'll click there and click Open Image. Okay, now we'll click on his shoes. We'll click Use Nodes. We'll click here. Image Texture. We'll click here. Desktop. Go to the folder that the textures are in. Click here so we can see what's going on. Then we click Shoes here and then Open Image. So now his shoe textures are right. Okay, what we're going to do now is I'm going to press T to bring up this panel. I'm then going to click View Camera so you can see that our camera view is still the same. Okay, now I'm going to click here. See where it says Display Image Editor? When I render something out, this image editor means that Blender will replace what you see right here with the rendered image. I prefer for the rendered image to be in a new window, so I'm going to click here and then select New Window. When we scroll down, where you see this, it says Sampling. This largely determines how clear your rendered image is. I'm not planning for this to be an animation. This is going to be a still image. So where it says Render here, I'm going to click here and I'm going to change this to 5,000. Then I'm going to press enter to lock that in. Okay, now what I'm going to do is scroll this back up. I'm then going to click here and select 720p. So it's HD TV 720p. I'm going to make sure this is at 100%. And then I am going to click here. Because we are rendering an image, I'm going to click render. And then I'm going to select image. This is going to take a while, so I'll come back once this is finished. Okay, so here's the final render, and I like how it looks. This is relatively simple to set up. It's fairly easy to set up. There could be some more detail here. You could use some creative use of the camera to kind of have the edge of the camera be here so you don't see this space right here. And probably could be some more detail right here. But yeah, for as easy and as quick as this is to set up, I like how it turned out. Okay, guys, that's it for the tutorial. For all of those of you out there who like the videos on this channel and reshare them, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And to those of you who are new to this channel, if you like the videos on this channel and you would like to see more, please subscribe, and thank you for viewing.